Welcome to the Eye Opener. I'm your host, Michael Lewis. 5 attorneys general sent a joint letter to Biden urging him to withdraw his new nomination. What's so alarming about this new nominee? Oklahoma joins Texas and Florida in taking measures to protect the Constitution. We dive deep into how the CCP is hacking their way through our country. Finally, we're going to see some fiery clapbacks with Fox's newest contributor. Okay, my friends, let us take a closer look together. On Monday, 5 attorneys generals from Indiana, Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Oklahoma sent a joint letter to Biden urging him to withdraw his nomination of Vanita Gupta to be the Justice Department's Associate Attorney General. They argue Gupta has a proven record of promoting far-left ideologies, especially when it comes to law enforcement, thus making her an unsuitable choice. The AG's letter says that they've seen a rise in violent crimes and homicides in many metropolitan areas across the country in 2020. This is not a time to pull back policing and decrease police budgets. Ms. Gupta does not support providing law enforcement with the resources needed to succeed and prefers shifting scarce resources to other priorities rather than hire more police. Last summer, when the BLM movement gained its momentum on the issue of police violence, Gupta asserted that we must fundamentally look at what kind of investments are made in law enforcement, suggesting her intent to defund the police. Gupta also said the Justice Department must examine not just using a policing approach to keep communities safe, and urge Congress to redirect government dollars away from policing practices rooted in the criminal legal system. Besides Gupta's disinterest in law enforcement, the letter points out Gupta is also at odds with religious liberties and women's rights by advocating for biologically male transgenders to play in girls' sports. The letter claims endorsing such a radical nominee is no way to bring about unity. Her worldview and low esteem of Americans are far outside the mainstream in the United States. Vanita Gupta was appointed by Obama as Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights from October 2014 to January 2017. Last summer, Biden dismissed the popular call for defunding the police. He said, "I want to get police more money in order to deal with the things they badly need." But his choice for the DOJ's Assistant Attorney General seems to say otherwise. The Oklahoma State House passed a bill that would allow the state attorney general and legislature to declare federal laws and executive orders issued by Biden as unconstitutional. The bill HB 1236 permits Oklahoma attorneys general to review any executive orders, congressional laws, or federal agency rules to see if they violate the U.S. Constitution. If the attorney general doesn't see a problem, the state legislature can also invalidate the orders through a majority vote. The bill was approved last Thursday with a vote of 79 to 18 in the Republican-led state House. The bill's author, Republican Representative Mark McBride, said that he created the bill because the high number of executive orders Biden has issued within only 1 month into his presidency. In particular, Biden's plan to endorse green energy technology has damaged Oklahoma's fossil fuel industry. This bill is seen as part of a larger push to assert the state's sovereignty. On February 10th, state Republican Representatives Jay Segal introduced another resolution reasserting state sovereignty under the 10th Amendment. The passing of HB 1236 could potentially pave the way for the state legislature to block Biden's mask mandate on federal land, transgender's agenda in school sports, and other radical orders. Meanwhile, Governor Greg Abbott announced Tuesday that Texas will end its coronavirus restrictions next week with an upcoming executive order. That means all businesses can open to 100% capacity and the statewide mask mandate will be over. Abbott said, "Too many small business owners have struggled to pay their bills. This must end." The governor said the restrictions are no longer needed now that the state is more prepared to test for and treat the virus and is vaccinating more of its residents. Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves also announced that the state will lift mask mandates for all counties starting Wednesday, saying its hospitalizations have plummeted and our case numbers have fallen dramatically as well. While Texas is freeing up the masks, the White House is charging for the CCP virus test. the White House will be requiring reporters to pay a proposed $170 per COVID-19 test for each visit. Critics say it is the latest step that constrains press coverage of President Biden. The Biden administration already imposed sweeping restrictions, including capping at 80 the number of pre-approved journalists who are able to access White House grounds on a given day, each of whom must take a COVID-19 rapid test before 1 p.m. Under Trump's administration, any reporter with a hard pass, which grants the highest level of access, can easily pass the White House gates without any COVID test. The White House Correspondent Association raised objections to the plan, arguing that some news organizations, particularly the smaller ones, would be heavily burdened by the cost. The White House Correspondent Association President Zeke Miller expressed his disappointment with Biden's procedures after all the steps the press corps has taken to abide by the new health and safety protocols. He believes that it is wrong to charge reporters for access, saying the establishment of the unique security infrastructure that surrounds the White House to include this new daily testing requirement should fall on the government, not journalists working to inform the public. The Daily Beast Washington bureau chief, Jackie Kusnich, tweeted sarcastically, "Paying a fee to keep the American public informed during a pandemic, this is a really terrific look." Putting aside the argument whether the $170 COVID test fee is to keep Biden's press exposure rate low, how much does a COVID-19 test cost at a hospital? According to the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, the COVID-19 test should be free to anyone. But if you really want to pay out of pocket, the Harborsham Medical Center near Atlanta charges $65, the Hunt Regional Medical Center near Dallas charges $25, and the Jersey Community Hospital in Illinois charges $100, and the North Alabama Medical Center in Alabama charges $113. Someone calculated with the higher than market price $170 test fee, it would cost $1,360 a day for an 8-person crew, and that's roughly $9,000 a week and $38,000 a month. While the White House says COVID tests for reporters are straining its budget, what's their $1.9 trillion stimulus COVID relief bill actually being used for? Now, before we continue, I would once again like to thank all of you who have joined me on this journey. As you already know, YouTube and Big Tech have been suppressing conservative voices, and that includes us at The Eye Opener. Please like and share this video so more people can know the truth. And if you are enjoying the content, please consider supporting us. Our donor box link is in the description. And please don't forget to join the email list. That way, if I get deplatformed, I will be able to stay in contact with you. Okay, let's get back into the show. It's no longer a secret that the Chinese Communist Party uses every means possible to infiltrate the United States in all aspects. On February 12th, Bloomberg published an article, "The Long Hack: How China Exploited a U.S. Tech Supplier," by journalists Jordan Robertson and Michael Riley. The article reveals that investigators have discovered malicious code hidden in the chips of Supermicro Computer Inc., also known as Supermicro, a computer hardware maker in San Jose, California. And for many years, these hidden chips have been stealing data and transmitting it back to China. In 2010, the U.S. Department of Defense found thousands of its computer servers sending military network data to China, the results of a hidden code in chips that handled the machine's startup process. In 2014, Intel discovered that an elite Chinese hacking group breached its network through a single server that downloaded malware from a supplier's update site. And in 2015, the FBI warned multiple companies that Chinese operatives had concealed an extra chip loaded with backdoor code in a manufacturer's servers. Each of these distinct attacks had two things in common: China and Supermicro. Journalists for this report interviewed more than 50 people from law enforcement, military, Congress, intelligence agencies, and private sectors, most of whom asked to remain anonymous. Secrets have been revealed piece by piece as intelligence and government agencies consult with external parties to investigate the attacks and give warnings to associated companies. Mike Jank, a former Navy SEAL who co-founded Data Tribe, a venture capital firm, told the journalist that in early 2018, the FBI was investigating the discovery of added malicious chips on Supermicro's motherboards. Two security companies that Mike advised were briefed by the FBI. He said these two companies were subsequently involved in the government investigation where they used advanced hardware forensics on the actual tampered Supermicro boards to validate the existence of the added malicious chips. The two companies are not allowed to speak publicly about the investigation, but they shared the details from their analysis with Mike. Mike decided to generally discuss the findings, hoping to raise awareness about the CCP's espionage activities within the technological supply chain. He said the malicious chips are real and the government knows it. The discovery of implanted servers was first reported in early 2010 by a Pentagon security team in its unclassified network. According to 6 former senior Pentagon officials, machines were found to be loaded with unauthorized instructions, directing each one to secretly copy and send data of itself and its network to China. The malicious instructions guiding the Pentagon servers were hidden in the machine's basic input-output system called BIOS. This is the part of the computer that tells it what to do at startup. The implant was found in thousands of servers. One official described it as ubiquitous. Although there was no evidence that the implant extracted any details on military operations, analysts were concerned that it might be a digital weapon that could shut down those systems during a conflict. Bloomberg's Businessweek first reported on Supermicro's malicious chips in October 2018. The story said Apple and Amazon had discovered the chips on equipment they purchased, but the 2018 article was disputed by the US government. Supermicro, Apple, and Amazon also publicly called for retracting the report. The claim in the report still attracted bipartisan attention. In October 2020, Republican Senator Marco Rubio and Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal sent a letter to Charles Liang, CEO of Supermicro, requesting more information. The letter states, if this news report is accurate, the potential infiltration of Chinese backdoors could provide a foothold for adversaries and competitors to engage in commercial espionage and launch destructive cyber attacks. Former FBI official Jay Tabb told Bloomberg, Supermicro is the perfect illustration of how susceptible American companies are to the potential nefarious tampering of any products they choose to have manufactured in China. It is an example of the worst-case scenario if you don't have complete supervision over where your devices are manufactured. According to Jay Tabb, the Chinese Communist Party has been doing this for a long time. American companies must be aware of the risk if they choose to have their products or parts of their products manufactured in China. Silicon Valley in particular needs to quit pretending that this isn't happening. Supermicro had denied all the allegations alleged in Bloomberg's report. The company accused of Bloomberg had assembled a mishmash of desperate and inaccurate allegations that draws far-fetched conclusions. A spokesperson for the CCP has, of course, rejected the claims, denouncing the US officials mentioned in the article as making things to hype up the China threat. But the CCP would never acknowledge any of their wrongdoings, and we all know the threat is real. The CCP does not stop at attacking the US. Here's a story that should serve as a warning for us. On June 15, 2020, India and China had their worst conflict in decades. 20 Indian soldiers were killed and 4 Chinese soldiers died in a violent face-off. Later, on October 12, India's financial capital, Mumbai, suffered a massive power outage that halted traffic signals, stopped trains, and interrupted businesses. This was a big blow to India, as Mumbai is an important city with 20 million people. According to a report from Recorded Future, a private cybersecurity company in Massachusetts, the power outage in Mumbai is linked to the conflict between India and China back in June. It was part of a malicious cyber attack against India's power grid. Recorded Future discovered that at the same time as the India-China conflict last summer, a CCP-funded malicious software called Red Echo was invading India's electricity power grid, control system, and including more than a dozen key nodes, a high-voltage transmission station, and a power plant. Indian officials have already pointed out long ago that the outage in Mumbai is caused by CCP's cyber attack against a local power control center. But after this statement, the Indian government became silent and did not reveal further information, nor did they respond to the Recorded Future's questions. However, what's more terrifying is that this company also discovered that there are still parts that are not been activated in the malicious software, which means it may trigger a cyber attack on a larger scale at a future time. So why didn't the Indian government say more about it? A former Indian diplomat said that the Indian government may be concerned about the cyber attacks, but further investigation may increase tensions along the Indian-China border. This is something that countries which grant CCP their infrastructure access need to be vigilant about. Interesting enough, one of the executive orders Biden signed was to reverse Trump's order to protect our power grid against foreign powers like China and Russia. In fact, the massive power outage in Texas due to extreme weather was related to the shutdown of wind power generation facilities. And you won't believe this. It was revealed by the National File that a Chinese company called Goldwind owns 2 wind turbine farms in Texas. This is a typical CCP tactic. They avoid head-on confrontation, but do all sorts of dirty things behind the scenes to get what they want. If you stay silent, they will only go more rampant. Now, let's talk about some good news. On Tuesday, former White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany announced in a Fox News interview that she will be joining the Fox family as a contributor. McEnany has been a fierce advocate of Trump. She told Fox her biggest regret at the White House was not being able to hold a briefing outlining all the accomplishments of the Trump administration. In the interview, she also questioned where Biden is. It's been more than 40 days into his presidency, and he has yet to hold a solo press conference. Obama did so on February 9, 2009, and Trump had one on February 16, 2017. While at the White House, McEnany frequently appeared on Fox News programs for interviews. This is how Fox News describes Kayleigh. McEnany quickly emerged as a hero to conservatives when she replaced Stephanie Grissom as White House press secretary in April 2020. She brought a new passion to the briefing room as she came armed with facts and information that regularly help expose hypocrisy among the media. She didn't shy away from confrontation and excelled at delivering the president's messaging. Prior to signing on as Trump's press secretary in the spring of 2020, McEnany was a contributor at CNN and a Republican National Committee spokeswoman. She had worked with Biden's press secretary Jen Psaki on a few occasions while at CNN. Later in the day, when asked by a reporter during the White House daily press briefing, Jen Psaki said she would be willing to sit down with McEnany for an interview and wish McEnany all the best with her future endeavors. Now that's an interview I want to see. Well, that's it for today, my friends. Please like and share, and if you haven't yet, please subscribe. Also, check out these playlists right here for more eye-opening content. You can also follow me on Gab, Parler, and Telegram. Don't forget, please sign up to the email list so that we can stay in contact with each other. I want to thank you all, and I'll see you next time.